Good evening. I'm Ernest Jermaine. And so last week I left you with the question, how do you become autonomous from the manipulative persuasions that you swim in and are affected by every day of your life? These messages that bombard your senses constantly. In my experience, I've come to learn the more self-actualized I've become, the more I can pick up on when these influences are coming in. And as soon as I'm consciously aware of it, the effect that they would have had on me when I wasn't consciously aware of it, it's a lot less. And indeed, in a lot of circumstances now, they are of no effect. I can see the persuasive techniques the manipulators or social programmers of society use in order to get me to buy crap that I don't really need, or in order to get me to think about crap that I am better served in not thinking about. Now with the next client, we're going to see that she has indeed become affected by the experience of her primary caregivers, those who were in control of her care when she was younger. And indeed, most of us have the same story. In explaining to you or sharing with you what I just did, I'm asking you to use this as a template of understanding for yourself. Now replace the primary caregiver with the system at large. And see the political system, for example, or the advertising industry, for example, entertainment industry, for example, and contemplate the meaning of this word. The word entertainment. Let's look at the etymology of it. If you look at Black's Law Dictionary, it breaks it down into three segments. En, tain, ment. En, E-N, is derived from the Latin, meaning to be placed into or put into. Tain is derived from the Old English word contain. I think it's Old English. Ment is derived from Latin, meaning mind. Entain, ment. To be placed into the contained mind. Entertainment. Let's extend on this. The word amusement. Muse-ment. In the Bible or in Latin, if you place a at the beginning of a word, it means the opposite of what the word originally meant. Amuse-ment. To muse means to think. So amuse means to not think. And when you place ment at the end of it, derived from Latin meaning mind, amusement means the unthinking mind. Entertainment and amusements. Now let's look at the word government. Gov and ment. Gov, the governor, from Old English. The governor was the fellow that would control the block, control the neighbourhood. The governor. En, derived from Latin, meaning to be put into or placed into. Ment, derived from Latin, meaning mind. Government, gov, en, ment. The controller, to be placed into the controlled mind. The controller places you into the controlled mind. So government is about control of the mind. The reason I share this with you is to extend on my understanding, my observation that the system that you swim in and the programs of the system being constantly bombarding you throughout your life are not about liberating you. They're about setting you up into a certain paradigm of thinking and having you work within those parameters for your entire life whilst convincing you that you're free. I put to you, you are not. And I put to you that once you realise this is going on, you're conscious of it, then all of a sudden the chains or the persuasions of the system are not as effectual on you anymore. Now, this client is not free from what she has been programmed with at a younger age. But we're going to get her there.
So I've just ended a relationship, a romantic relationship, very recently. And so I would love to work through... I realised in that relationship that a lot of my father stuff come up. Like, he's very much like my father in both the light and shadow aspects of it. And so I was hoping to work through this belief system that I'm not chosen, that I'm not enough. I tend to attract men who want to be with other women or fantasize about other women. I tend to attract men that aren't living their purpose. I tend to, So I would love to unpack and work through or release whatever that is.
Are you willing to explore the possibility or to contemplate the possibility that the attributes of the men you seem to be attracting towards yourself could possibly be attributes within yourself being reflected into the other men that require perhaps to be integrated or processed or looked at?
Yeah.
So if you were to pick one of those, Aisha, which one of those actually stands out to you to have more of a magnetic charge attached to it?
So which one, what do you mean?
Some of the aspects
in
regards to the men that you've been attracting towards yourself, such as a man who doesn't know what he's doing, isn't living his vocation in life, is a bit meandering or lost perhaps. A man who, what were some of the attributes that you mentioned?
They're not emotionally available, so they either question monogamy or they don't want to be monogamous. They have a belief that monogamy is a control.
Men or what?
They have a belief, like my last relationship, he believed that monogamy was like a form of control, this kind of thing. So and they're not being chosen aspects. So I tend to attract men that can't be present as well.
Who are unwilling to give of themselves to the point where you can feel completely present and safe enough in the relationship to be able to give your energy over to them in a very intimate way, which means just you and me doing our thing, and we're not dissipating it, giving it to other people at the same time. So through the journey of my life, I've come to learn that we are empathic creatures. Our empathy with others, our connection with others, we desire. And I've found the more healthy a person is, and the more healthy a person I have become, the more empathy I have with other people, the more connection I have with them. Now, when we have empathy, we have informational or energetic exchange, energy transference between the two of us. Now, when I have conversations with people and I want to quickly build the empathy or the rapport, the energetic connection between the two of us, when in session, for example, I listen to what it is they want to share and then repeat back to them to let them know I understand what they're saying. This helps with the rapport, with the empathy. Now, this happens in the normal relationships in our life. Usually it takes a lot longer to go through that process. For someone to share themselves with you and you share a bit with them, and then they parrot back to you what you said, and vice versa. And no matter how long a time it takes, that's how long it takes. I have discovered that with the development of my own empathy and with other people I have watched and observed, the more empathy they have, the quicker and deeper the connection is. And because a self-actualized human being has their core values in alignment with the way they live their life, or indeed hopefully with what they do for a living, I'm doing the same here. One of my core values is to help people. And so now that I have repeated back to her that I understand and created more empathy, I'm now going to find out what her future projection is, what it is she wants, so I can help her get that. And indeed, when you go through your life and you choose to do this with the people you meet, they then see value in you. And the more value other people see in you, the more wealth you have. And if you were to have that in your life, how would your experience of your life, of yourself, change?
I feel I would really connect with my femininity in a deeper way. I would sink more into my, the feminine aspects perhaps that I don't really feel I have had the opportunity to explore fully, like in terms of like being deeply trusting, being deeply receptive, being able to be free in my emotional storm or my vulnerability without being judged. So a man that can maintain presence and awareness, through that, so I can be held by that. So then, how would that transmute in my waking life? I would hold a stronger space in my work for others as well, which is a big reason why I'm here and trying to work this out as well, because I can feel that it stifles my growth in some aspects as well, because I feel like I can't be in my trust, I can't trust men, I can't be vulnerable with men. So I also understand that there's a very deep source of power there that I can't access, that I can't tap into, that I can't share with others until I get to that place. So in a way, this is also like I have this fire inside me that I was like, okay, I really want to get this done so I can serve better, so I have more space within me to give to others as well in my work.
So what I can hear, or what I'm hearing so far, is that you're aware that you're projecting what it is you need to work on within yourself onto the relationship you're having with men, and indeed into the aspect of the men that you would possibly be with on a succession of times. Perhaps you've had a few men and you've done the same thing, in which you've projected into them the space of weakness or the space that is required to be healed into yourself, inside yourself. So my question to you is, do you think that in doing that, in the relationships you've been having with men, you've actually been giving your power away?
Definitely.
Thereby making them responsible for your own stuff. This is what I call living in each other's pocket, where the boundaries between ourselves and the other person become blurred. And it's really messy when that happens. So let's use that as a template, the relationships you've been having with men, and let's grab that template and now move it over to the history of you and your father, because you've shared with me, based upon your awareness of what you see is going on, that it's really connected between you and your father, and you've been projecting that onto the relationships you've been having with men. So as that is a template, bringing it it over to you and your father.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the history, tell me the story of you and your father. And I ask you again to see the conversation I'm having with the client as a template. Use it as a template that you experience when you get to know someone over time. Now, as a person expresses themselves to you, different aspects of themselves to you, every single one of those aspects of themselves have anchors or attachments to other aspects of themselves or other endeavours or pursuits or experiences that they have in the physical world. And you can see her expressing that now. Also, as people share themselves with you, if you're stuck in judgment on what it is they're sharing to you, they will automatically shut down. Or if they're a people pleaser, their own issue, then they will modify what it is they're sharing with you in order to not place you in as much of this state of judgment, because they are perhaps overly concerned with what you think about them. Now, in coming to understand what's going on for a person and where the issue or the problem is oriented with the person, meaning whether or not it comes from them as a projection onto other people, or is coming from the outside world around them to them, of which could mean it's their interpretation of what's coming into their energy field, of which could mean, at a deeper level, that it still is their projection, it still is their issue. Because depending on how deep we can go with a client here, or depending on how deep you're willing to go into the adventure of another person with your relationships that you have in your life, this will exactly determine to the depth, to the degree that you will, and that this other person will discover that ultimately they are the master projector of everything that happens in their life. Okay? It is correct to say that everything is a co-creation. At a very deep level that we will get into in future shows, everything is a projection from our consciousness onto the world around us. So even though at first glance it may see that someone else is projecting something into our energy field, we've made the decision somewhere within the deep recesses of our unconscious to create this experience for ourselves.
For a very long time, I had him on a very tall pedestal.
From when?
From, I think since the day I was born, you know, from a very, very young age.
Right. From here on in, whenever I go, I'm not being rude, I'm picking up on keys, and I need to jump on them straight away. Okay?
Yeah.
So, from when you were very young, you had him up on a pedestal. When you say you had him up on a pedestal, do you mean you had a healthy love and respect for him like any daughter would for her father? Or do you mean that you placed him up on some intellectual idolization platform and went, right, that's where you are? What?
Yeah, I feel, well, it's interesting because my father was, he had like a mental illness or psychological problems where he would lie, like he was a pathological liar, but really extreme. So, like full-on stories, like crazy, you know. So he kind of built this image himself that I, you know, then believed. So like I was like the apple of his eye, you know, and I had this very, like this heroic belief of, you know, that he was very charitable, which he was, you know, but I feel that my perception was not really, considering what I've come to understand about him later, once he passed away, that it was, that I was looking through like rose-coloured glasses, you know, in a way.
What were those rose-coloured glasses based upon?
I feel it was based upon, because the relationship with my mother was so bad that I really, I suppose, clung on to my father, because he was, you know, always very present with me, very nice, never raised his voice, you know, whereas my mother was, you know, at times quite unkind.
So what I'm suggesting to you is there's a possibility, and you let me know whether or not it hits. I'm suggesting that there may be a possibility that in you not receiving what you felt you required from your mum, you then projected your attention towards your dad in the hope that you would get it from him.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Did he give it to you in the way you thought you would have got it from your mum? Did he fill that gap?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm suggesting to you that perhaps he filled that gap whilst simultaneously proving to you that perhaps men can't be trusted because, hey, my dad is telling all these flamboyant stories and whatnot, and that's not really grounded, it's not the truth. Did you pick up on that at the time, or were the rose-coloured glasses so rosy that you did not see that at the time?
I didn't see the lying at the time. I come to find out about the lying, like pretty much after he passed away. So he passed away when I was 12.
Okay, so the distrust of men, or the distrust of males, okay, did that come in when you found out, or do you get a sense that it was there and intuitively you picked up on your father's lies, his deceit, his storytelling when you were younger? Unconsciously, did you pick up on it?
I feel I did, yeah, because like my mum would kind of make me aware of it subtly, because my brother also has the same issue, like with, and he started from a very young age, and I used to hear her say, oh, you know, just like your father, and so I think I picked something up there. But yeah, I definitely feel like intuitively I was, you know, I could get a sense that, you know, because he used to always say to me as well, we'd stay up and we would talk, and he would always say, you know, always make sure you never lie. Don't ever lie. This is very important that you don't lie. Like, I remember that very clearly.
In
So,
him sharing that with you, did you see that as a contradiction or a hypocrisy on his behalf, or do you feel perhaps when you look back at it from the woman now, that you see it as his acknowledgement of his own storytelling and realising that he could do better and he didn't want you to go down that path?
oh, that's how I feel, yeah, knowing what I know, yeah, that he was really trying to instill, like, don't succumb to this sickness, you know, don't become enslaved like I am in this fantasy world, or whatever it was that was going on for him. Yeah, I definitely felt that he didn't want that for me.
So therefore, do you feel that since you say it was a sickness, and since that your father actually acknowledged where he was at and what he was doing, that this, as you call it, distrust that you may have for men now, isn't actually based upon the concept of not being able to trust men. That may be based upon the fact that your father was actually trying to do his best at being genuine, at being just himself, but yet consciously knew that he was falling short of the mark. So you knew ultimately your father could be trusted because he was conscious and aware exactly of what he was doing. Okay? But perhaps he could stop doing it to a degree with the people that he cared more about. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, there were things that he did blatantly lie to me about, you know, that...
He knew at the time he was lying?
Yeah, I feel so. So he would share with me, for example, that my mother left him because his business wasn't going very well. She was very materialistic, but he was cheating on her constantly, you know, like, so it's like I had an awareness in a way that what he was sharing was not true.
Why do you feel he was cheating on her constantly?
Oh, because he definitely was.
Now, as you can see, sometimes the underlying issue that you may be dealing with isn't actually a program given to you by another person. Sometimes, as you're experiencing life, it's more about your interpretation of it, or what you make to mean about the experiences you have as you go throughout your life. Now, what this points towards is this. It touches on the truth I shared with you a moment ago. You are the master projector of your own life. And you are so powerful that you can make up your own interpretations and make up what you want to about absolutely anything that happens in your life. One person may go through an experience and it may destroy them. Another person may go through the same experience and it adds on to their sense of self in a positive way. Everything is your interpretation of it. And you are so powerful, you can change your interpretation of anything. Which means you can change your view on life. Now, because your view on life is projected from your sense of self, thereby you can change your sense of self. You can remodel your sense of self, thereby remodeling your life.
Oh, because he definitely was. Yeah, so my mother...
Why do you feel he was?
Sorry?
Why do you feel he was?
I feel he had a lot, like he was deeply addicted to sex, women, not being enough. I feel it was part of his sickness.
You're aware that when we have sex, we can have angry sex, upset sex, passionate sex. Sex can be a whole lot of different variety of things, depending on the emotional intensity or the emotional focus that we have within us when we're sharing ourselves emotionally with someone else. Sex can also be an intellectual thing. We can do role playing and whatnot. We can go on in all sorts of different ways. Do you feel that it's not that your father was addicted to sex per se, but he was perhaps addicted is the right word, addicted to projecting onto other women what he wasn't actually getting with his wife at the time?
Yeah.
So as you can see, at first the client thought that her father was just and only addicted to sex. But with my introspective questioning, my looking into her further with no judgment, her feeling completely safe, we found that there was another layer of truth there, of which was, well, as you just saw, he wasn't. Her father was not receiving from his wife what he wanted. So a natural reaction in his own personal pursuit of happiness was to, and fulfillment, was to go elsewhere. So perhaps we can class that as a failure in the marriage. And because perhaps we can see this as a failure in the marriage, we can perhaps also see it as the younger her as a child striving to make meaning out of what was happening, trying to understand the relationship family dynamic, trying to work things out and figure stuff out. And so this brings me back to my statement a few minutes ago, of which was, we sometimes make up meaning about what is happening in our lives. It's not the program or a program programmed into us by our parents, for example. It's our definitions, because we are the master projectors, remember. And in enlightening her as to what her father was perhaps doing, we have successfully begun to chip away at that program, at her projection of what was going on. Because first she thought he was just addicted to sex, but now she's found out that it was her father's way of trying to attain what he wasn't getting out of the marriage. Now this affords her insight, and this is what you do naturally with people when you care enough for them to listen to what they have to share with you with no judgment. Now remember, judgment makes this thing right and this thing wrong. You give small parameters for people to express themselves to you in, if you do that. Because people don't want to be wrong, because they identify so strongly with what they feel to be right that they adorn it like a cloth or a garment that they wear. It's as if they make it their personality. And people die for their beliefs. Wars, entire wars have been fought for people's beliefs. Now, it's best to practice discernment with humility. Discernment says, this is this, and that is that. And for now, I choose this. Doesn't make one right or one wrong. Doesn't nullify one or hold up another to the light. Okay? Now when you hold this positive frame of mind, you're helping to assist the person that you're speaking with to continue sharing more of themselves, which is creating even more empathy, which is a deeper relationship. And we all want more relationships, better, more fulfilling relationships.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what do you perceive he wasn't getting with his wife, your mother?
I would say he wasn't getting... She's not emotionally available, so I would say he wasn't... There was something there that he wasn't getting.
So he was after intimacy then?
I feel that she was... I feel that he was... And I also feel with my father that a lot of it was the process of... Because he was very charming, so I feel that like it fed something inside of him where he didn't feel he was enough. And so then, you know, like...
Okay, so I'll bounce this off you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that when I turn my charm up, the reaction or response I get from other people is one of amiability. They like me. They are attracted to charm naturally.
Yeah.
Thereby, do you feel it a possibility that when he was being charming, he would then receive a response, a positive one, that he wasn't actually getting from his wife at the time?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Are you attracted to that aspect in men?
The charming aspect? I'm trying to think.
Okay, so look at me when you think.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, a lot of my partners haven't been particularly charming, like in that way.
Okay, so it's not charming that you've been attracted to
No.
these other men that you've brought into your life. What aspects in them were you attracted to?
Well, to be blatantly honest with you, a lot of my partners that I've been with, I wasn't particularly attracted to them at the start. It's like I responded to attention, and then time progressed, and then I grew to become more attracted, or the feelings grew.
Right. So the attention initially was enough to get into a relationship of sorts with them.
Yeah.
Right. When you had that attention, how did you respond inside? How did it feel for you?
I would say it felt like validating, exciting, you know, yeah, like...
Did it feel like what you would have wanted to receive from your dad?
No, because I always felt my dad was very attentive with me. Like, I never felt starved from his attention at all, you know, like, Like, he wasn't physically affectionate, but in terms of what he would share with me, like, even when my parents separated, he would call me every night and all this kind of stuff. So I definitely didn't feel starved of attention from my father at all. Like, quite the opposite, actually. Like, I never felt he was smothering in any way. It was really beautiful. But yeah, I don't remember feeling like starved of attention from him. Yeah.
What I'm looking for here is a trigger, a connection between the relationship you had with your father, okay, and the something that is the urge that you have been looking for in other men. That's why I asked the question, how you on the inside react, how it makes you feel when they give you that attention. And I'm suggesting to you there's more going on right there in that little package of information there, because honestly, the healthy person does not choose to get into a relationship with someone just because they're interested in them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So let's unpack that
Yeah.
in there. Now, when you've developed a friendship, a relationship, and you've built a great, strong rapport with them, with someone, this is when, as I just did, as you saw me just do, this is when you can actually give forward your opinion, because you're humble and you're non-judgmental. You're discerning the truth within what it is they're saying, the truth in them, in their own life. You're helping them reinterpret what's happened for them, helping them to reinterpret their perception or perspective on their own life. This means you're remodeling another person's life. This is powerful stuff, guys. You do this naturally in the relationships that you have with people, and the more empathy that you have with people, the more ability to be able to be of positive effect to other people you have. And other people by default will see value in you. And remember, the more value people see in you, the more wealth you have. Now, there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich, we know, doesn't work. We've seen many a movie star get hooked on drugs and whatnot, but yet they've got all the money and fame in the world. So it's hollow. Wealthy, in part, means you're living your life in alignment with your values. You're doing things, for example, that you find enjoyable. You're not going to a job that you'd rather not do. You're going to a job that helps you to pursue your goals. There's a whole variety of different aspects that are wealth. And for the most part, they're based upon what your core values are. Now, I will introduce a process for you to find what your core values are in a later show. Have patience. Small steps. How did it make you feel? What was going on internally? What processes were ticking over that convinced you that it was okay to get into the relationship with these men when all they did was give you some attention? Because I know, and you know, you're worth more than that.
Yeah.
Every woman has a secret garden.
Yeah.
Okay. Every man has a secret garden. Okay. And we only give it to those whom we feel are of worth enough to give it to, which means we value them enough to give it to. And I'm hearing you say you're placing so much value on only their attention, when that's not the truth. That's not why you chose to get into the relationship with them. Right here, there's something else going on. Okay. Tell me what's going on.
Well, it's interesting because in my last relationship, when we first, actually in quite a few of my relationships, when they've started, like when they've tried to engage sexually, for example, I do remember how, because that's usually how it starts, you know, so it's like, and then next thing, you know, they're touching me and I freeze. And so there's this, I say like...
Please back up.
Yeah.
So when you meet a man, if there's something or whatever, feelers go out and you both pick up on it, you initiate sex rather quickly, right? That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, well, like, particularly in my last 3 relationships. That's kind of where it's gone. So it's like,
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm hearing you then say directly after the first sexual contact, or shortly after, say a month, whatever, they go to touch you and you freeze.
Well,
At what stage does that come in?
with the freezing, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, so for me, like with my last partner, for example, I wasn't like attracted to him really at all. And then, you know, and we were hanging out together, and, you know, we'd had some medicine, and so I kind of went off, you know, like journeying. And then when I came to, he was being sexual with me, and I froze, you know, and I was like, and so when I kind of came back in, I was like, oh, you know.
So you didn't give him permission to do so?
No.
Okay, so
No.
when you came back and he was doing so, did you prolong it? Did you go along with it merely because he was giving you attention?
Yeah, but it doesn't, I don't know if it's like he was giving me attention. It's like something inside me freezes. Like, it's like a, you know, it's this confusion of, oh, this doesn't feel comfortable, but I don't feel, like I don't know how to say, oh, actually, no, I don't really feel like that right now, or, you know, it's like this, like a short circuit or something.
Okay, right.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, okay. Now what I've discovered here, I believe to be a rather large key. My sense of it here is that once I change, or once the client and I change this aspect of the self, this freezing, that event, when the sexual relationship is initiated, once we change that, then she will attract different men into her life. Because as I've said before, your life is a direct representation, or indeed duplication, of how you feel about yourself, your relationship with yourself. So if you change yourself by going internally as far as you can and reprogramming whatever requires to be reprogrammed, by default your life changes as well. And also, I'll add, life has an amazing way of helping you grow. Naturally, suppressions or programs that no longer serve you come up from the unconscious mind to the conscious self for you to be processed correctly and released. Now, if you have a program or a suppression that no longer serves you, and you're finding yourself struggling with it, you'll find over time you have less and less energy to do things, less and less enthusiasm for life, so on and so forth. Food doesn't even taste as good, so on and so forth. Now, you've heard the term a nervous breakdown. I believe, I've had 3 of them I think, a nervous breakdown is a good thing. It's when the suppression no longer serves you to the point where the universe, life, God, whatever, has come along and knocked on the door a few times and you're not getting the message. You're still not changing or releasing or properly processing or integrating the suppression. And so the suppression becomes so loud, so intense, that you pop. You have a nervous breakdown. And it comes out in a really, really big way. The floodwaters are released, so to speak. And that's a good thing, folks. That's a good thing. But you all don't have to go through your life being under pressure, having no enthusiasm for life, no viv or verve for life. You don't have to do that. And you don't have to go through a nervous breakdown. And you don't have to project your own crap onto other people. You can process your own stuff. Now, one way to do this is through the process of meditation. In a future program, I will explain the 3 stages of meditation. I've been to quite a few meditation schools, and I think, well, all of them did not have as deep an understanding of it as myself. I say that with no arrogance or conceit at all. I will explain to you very simply, succinctly and clearly what meditation is and how to do it. And in fact, how you're already a master at it. Right,
That's what
yeah.
it feels
Yeah,
like.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you did know how to say it, how would you say it?
I would say, oh, I don't really feel like that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So therefore you do know how to say it. Okay. Now take your attention into the event when that happened, whether it's the one time or a few times. Okay. As you take your memory back into that and you look into that, what comes up? Without intellectual editing, don't go into your head.
Yeah.
Look at me and tell me what comes up. Share with me feeling, sensation, thought, anything, no editing.
I'd say confusion is like,
Right,
number one. It's like in terms of not knowing how to respond to like, so
not knowing how to respond in terms of who's telling you how you should respond.
Yeah.
Who's telling you how you should respond? Is there a plan? Is there a manual of how you should respond? Are you taking instruction off someone else who has told you how you should respond and you're not meeting the mark?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've already told me how you would respond if you could, and we've discovered that you can respond because you know how to. So continue on with explaining to me as best as you can that little packet just before you think to yourself, well, I'm not really into this, but hey,
yeah, that bit, yeah.
go into that.
I'd say the first thing that comes up for me is like I was abused when I was younger by my mum's boyfriend, and there was like this grooming process that would go on, so it was like leading up to that. It was like before the touching started, there was like this grooming process, where he was a little bit more attentive, then a little bit more attentive, paying more attention to me, la 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 la, and then it kind of progressed from there. So by the time it was happening, I do remember like that exact same sensation where it's like I can feel that this isn't comfortable. I'm confused, but I don't really feel like I can say, or have the right to say this isn't really,
How old were you?
7, 8, yeah.
You're a child?
Yeah.
Okay, now, I'm suggesting to you, well, at first, I know that the unconscious mind has 12 languages it uses to express itself. Okay? One of those languages is it brings from the past that which hasn't been processed yet, properly processed, back into the present moment through drawing connections between what's happening in the present moment and what happened in the past. The evidence of this here is you had that issue with the fellow when you were 7 or 8 years old. Okay, it made you feel the way it did. Perhaps you froze then.
Yeah.
Okay, right. And the relationships you're having with men now, you are having the same event happen. Now, this doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, because you're not. All it means is the unconscious mind is going, hey, let's process this, let's heal this. So finally you can move beyond it and begin attracting into your life the kind of men that you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm going to do my process with her, where I go in and simply take out what no longer serves her. Now I'm not going to show you how I do this, nor explain to you how I do it, because if I do, I will be doing a disservice to you. Now what I mean by that is this. If I explain to you something that's up here, up top up here, without giving you any of the foundational understanding in order to get to understand this up here, you just won't believe it. You will not believe it to be possible without having the evidence to back it up. And so, I'm not going to show you. Small steps, remember? Small steps. And we shall see what's going to happen. Okay. Now, when a situation comes to you from this point on, how do you perceive that you would handle it differently?
I would have trust in my body's wisdom to like in this knowing that if I'm going to engage in someone, there has to be an attraction. I have to feel something in my body.
Okay, so when you say you have to, who's telling you you have to?
It's like my inner, like my higher self.
Ah, good.
You know.
So it's higher instruction. The
Yeah.
higher awareness is saying, right, this is the way we're choosing to operate from this point on,
Yeah.
based upon new boundaries being set in
Yeah.
place.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a signification of change. Okay. So how do you see it then playing out with you doing that when another man comes into your life?
I would see it as essentially that I've changed my vibration, so I'll no longer attract a man that's gonna like
Reflect the old stuff.
that old stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in attracting into your life a man that reflects the new stuff, how do you see your life changing? How do you see your expression of yourself actually changing?
I see myself as more free and open and more like feeling comfort in going into my vulnerability, being very trusting, receptive, sexually awakened and nourished.
Now, she just described feminine qualities, and this is why I decided to then explain to her or share with her my understanding of the differences between the male and the feminine and how they can healthily interact with each other to enable her to be more open to when it begins to happen naturally when men or as men come into her life. So she has a template or a plan of expectation of which she can begin to see unfold before her eyes. I'd like to enhance upon that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Men, women, up, down, this, that, black, white, them, us. Do I say in out? There's opposites to everything because we live in a duality universe. We cannot know ourselves without having the opposite of ourselves to compare ourselves to. Okay. Now, the female energy is all about opening up, allowance, it's about love, it's about compassion, it's all these niceties of life. Okay? Now, the female energy is all about grabbing the smallest little inflections of life, right? And savouring everything that you can out of it, because you're a woman. Which is why men say, my missus, man, for God's sake, she grabs the smallest of nothing and turns it into something that ain't. It drives me nuts. It only drives men nuts because they don't know what the woman's doing. And again, what the woman is doing, she wants to love life and draw in life because that's her feminine vibration. That's what the feminine energy is all about. Sucking in as much life as possible. Okay? Grabbing the smallest of nothing, blowing it up out of all proportion to get as much out of it as she can. Now, that's a template for feminine energy. The masculine energy is all about the manipulation of matter. Okay? It's more intellectually based. The male energy looks at an idea, grabs hold of the idea, and morphs it, manipulates the energy into physicality. Okay? This is why 99.9% of stuff in the physical world has been made by men throughout history. Doesn't mean men are more powerful than women at all. Okay? That's the masculine energy. Now what the masculine energy men are not good at doing is savouring in and loving and embracing life, which is what women do so bloody well. Okay? Now the man wants to experience life just as much as the woman, but he needs the woman in order to do it, because he wants to live it through the woman. Now, in order to do that, he needs to find a woman who trusts him enough to allow him to set the proper boundaries for her to play within and completely let go and go nuts in. Okay, to grab the smallest of nothing, blow it up out of all proportion and dance within the expression of it. Okay? Now, she will only allow him to set those boundaries, which is what the masculine energy does, if she trusts him enough to do so. Now, this also drives home for her the importance of her further developing this sense of trust in herself. Places more value upon the exercising of her trust of herself, that she can handle whatever it is a man or life may do to her. That's the essence of trust. Now, I used to go throughout my life wanting to trust others, but not trusting anyone. I couldn't trust anyone because I was in an unresourceful state at the time. Meaning I was, or had been up until that point in my life, constantly let down, rejected, ignored, made fun at because I was considered too deep. And I took that on board as a failing of myself because of my own personal lack of security. I was insecure. When I learnt the essence of trust, and for you again, trust can be understood through this statement. You can only trust someone to the extent that you believe you can handle whatever it is you think they may do to you. So trust isn't the issue of you trusting them. Trust is always the issue of you trusting yourself. So place yourself. So when I learned the essence of trust, I then learned how to place myself in a position of centeredness, of self-empowerment, being centered no matter what happened. And so I retained my own energy and by default set up a boundary, and no one crossed it ever again. So if you're in a relationship and you don't trust your partner, that's entirely about you. If you want to change your partner, change yourself. Everything starts with yourself. Everything. Now, my question to you is, what is trust to you?
Trust is like it's difficult to describe because it's, for me, it's like more of a feeling, you know, like a
What's the feeling?
it's like a knowing, and a knowing that, you know, that you're held, that you're walking together, to lift each other, to grow together, like that there's mutual respect.
Okay, so I'm not asking you what is trust to you
Mm.
in relation to a man,
Mm.
or something outside of yourself.
Mm.
I'm asking you again, and you've done well so far,
Mm.
what trust is to you.
Yeah, it's just being able to feel completely relaxed. Like
Like you're okay,
yeah,
and you're safe
exactly.
enough
Yeah.
to be yourself.
Uh-huh.
And you know,
Mm.
no matter what it is another person may end up doing to you,
Mm.
that you can handle it.
Yes. Mm.
That's the essence of trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's this nervousness I'm picking up on now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think it's interesting when you said, say that last thing you said again.
Okay, so trust
Mm-hmm.
can be understood through a statement.
Yeah.
Okay, I will only trust this person, for example, to the point where I know within myself I can handle whatever it is I think they may do to me.
That's where I start to feel nervous, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a trust issue here.
Yes.
This is good. Okay. So if you could actually trust yourself, I don't care about other people at the moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would that give you? What would that afford you the ability of? If you could trust yourself enough to know that you'd be okay if someone else did whatever it is they're going to do, which really ain't got nothing to do with you.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, trust for you, what does that look like, sound like, feel like? Knowing that you can trust yourself enough to know that you can handle whatever it is may happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I trust myself completely to process, and because I've already handled so much, you know, like in my life already, like my existence in this physical plane hasn't been easy, you know, just led me to my work, so I'm very grateful for that. But like, I think what triggered me in terms of the words that you used was with my ex-partner, he would talk a lot like that in terms of like our sexual interactions, and so it's like it's interesting, like my body received your words like...
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay, so now get back to my question. Okay, what does trust feel like for you, knowing that you'd be able to handle, that you could handle anything that could happen?
What does it feel like? I suppose I don't really understand the question. Like, what does it feel like?
Okay, that's only a protection mechanism from the unconscious mind, whose one of its languages is to protect you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, knowing that you can handle anything because you trust yourself enough to know that you can relax and be at ease, flow and breathe, knowing that you'll be okay no matter what may happen. How does that feel for you? What would that be like for you? How would your life change because of that?
I would sleep better, probably. I would have less questions. I would feel more comfortable in uncertainty. I would feel excited about uncertainty.
They're pretty good attributes to a new life based on trust.
Yeah.
So what do you require then to trust yourself?
I think I require... I require to trust myself more. I think just stillness is what I require. Yeah, more stillness.
So what is stillness for you?
So giving myself the time to connect more with myself rather than being in... I work a lot, I do a lot, I run my own... I'm a one-woman show, you know, so yeah, giving myself more time to you know, connect with spirit, connect to the divine, do more feminine things.
So how do you do that now in your life?
Well, I don't do a lot of it at the moment because...
How do you do it now in your life?
How do I do it now? I make space for it, I make it a priority. I incorporate it into my daily practice as part of my work.
And in incorporating it into your life and making space for it, that affords you the ability of
more knowing, more trust,
So
surrender.
do you think then it appropriate for you now to move on from here, actually making more space for that in your life? Because you know the value of it, of which will give you more of what you want. So what you've targeted in on here, what we can signify here, is that you already have something in your life that's giving you what you want, but to a lesser degree because you haven't been giving yourself more of it. So instead of looking for it in relationships with other men, you're actually giving yourself it now, and you can choose from this point on to allow yourself more space, more time to get more of it, of which means by default that as you do, this vibration will come out like this and change the interactions that you'll be having with men and change the type of vibrational match of the man that will come into your vibration. You get that? Right. So my question is, are you now choosing to give yourself more space, more time to connect more from this point onwards?
Yes.
Because you see the wisdom in it, don't you? Right. And if I see you again at some point in the future, I would like to know the change in you when and I'll know it anyway, just by talking to you, I'll know it. Within a few minutes I'll be able to sense it, in fact. I was about to say I'd like you to tell me you're doing it, but I'll know anyway. So can you acknowledge that for me? How your life would change in giving yourself more time, more space? How would it change?
I would just have more space to experience, like to feel more like pleasure in all facets of my life.
And in having more pleasure in more facets of your life, how would your life change more?
I mean, it's interesting because I actually really love my life. You know, like I wouldn't, you know, like I love my work, I love how much I travel and all these kind of things, so I feel I would just enjoy it that more, you know.
You'd get more out of
I'd
life.
get more out of
More of what you enjoy.
that. Yeah, and I would be more, and if I give myself more space, I'll be stronger in my body, you know, more resilient in my health, you know, these things.
So basically you'll get a whole lot more of what it is you want.
Yeah.
Can you see how that would actually empower you then to even make the right decisions when a man would come into your life? Which means acting from a space of more empowerment by default means less confusion. Of which means, for less confusion in your life, focus on giving yourself more time, more space, because you've already got within the practice of doing that, everything that you could possibly want to attract the man into your life that you want. To say another way, the more you focus on giving yourself this time and this space, the more you re-engineer your sense of self, thereby re-engineer your life and attract the right men into your life. Do you get that? Why are you just agreeing with me?
No, I do. Yeah.
So intellectually you understand, do you feel it? How does it feel when I say that? Is there a feeling base there at all?
Yeah, like it's like I have a vision of myself, you know, like being able to spend more time with brothers and sisters that I don't have an opportunity to, connect with a lot because I work so much, and, you know, so being more sociable, me being more out there, more vibrancy, you know, like more fun in my life, you know.
So tell me what I'm hearing, okay? And it's okay if this is what it means to you. Okay, I'm just reflecting what I'm hearing here. Okay, what I'm hearing here is that you're choosing to give yourself more space and more time from this moment onwards in relationship to other people, of which implies to me that there's a slight possibility that you may then choose to do that in relation to other men that may come into your life.
You've lost me, sorry. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
my question is, how are you choosing from this moment on to give yourself more time and more space in relationship to yourself?
Well, that's one thing I deny myself. I don't socialise, so it's either I'm alone or I work. There's no in between, and so I catch up with Rati, but we work together. So it's like I have a very little social life, you know. So I sense that that's something that I'm actually depriving myself of.
Excellent,
know?
excellent. So one way in which you can give yourself more space and more time from this point on.
Yeah, like spending more time with women, for example. Like I've got beautiful sisters that I want to spend time with, but my schedule is so jam-packed that I don't have space or time to do that, you know. So I recognise, and then I'm so buggered, then I don't want to see anybody, and then the only person I was seeing was my partner.
Right.
So
what I'm hearing you say is that you can clearly acknowledge then that in working so much, you're not giving yourself the time and the space you require in order to change your life in the way you actually want your life to change, which means you now have more value on the value of spending more time with yourself, being present with yourself, giving yourself the time and the space in order to what? Be more with other people, as in friends and not working? Yeah. What else?
To be more joyful, you know, to...
Okay, are you willing to slow down, to stop as much work as what you're doing now?
Well, right now I can't because I'm going to Brazil on the 20th of April.
Well,
so
that's fine because you have a direction which implies a destination, which implies an end to working so much. So that's good. Yeah. How far away is that?
I fly out on the 20th of April.
Nice. So are you willing to continue working as hard as much as what you are now up until that point?
Well, it's interesting because like my work in some respects, it's not like slowed down, like I'm still, but I'm not so focused on all my weeks have to be booked up and all these time slots that aren't filled yet. Usually I would be, I've got to fill them so I can get enough money together so I can be away for 4 weeks and blah blah, but I'm feeling more and more that I'm actually really enjoying that I'm not so booked up and I can free myself up to do other things, and the financial pressure that I put on myself is, you know, easing, you know, so yeah, so in a way that kind of is already...
It's already in play, isn't it?
It's already kind of started because
So just a reminder to you production companies, I am open to reading off a teleprompter at times. I would prefer more of a connection with the viewers at home, looking like I'm looking at you down the barrel of the camera now. Sometimes a teleprompter may be required. So let's imagine I'm reading off a teleprompter now. To the viewers at home. Now our client says and a reminder, or we can edit what I'm about to say into the 14-minute long clip, because I don't want to lose the viewers at home, you know. Maybe best to do that. Okay. Now, our client says she trusts herself completely. No, she doesn't, because if she did, she'd know that she'd be fine no matter what happened. Remember, you only trust another to the degree you believe you can handle whatever it is you think they may do to you. Then she shows me she still hasn't got the trust enough in herself because she defaulted back to then she further showed me that she still doesn't have trust enough in herself, because she defaulted back to attaching her ability to trust to relationship with men. And so I asked her, what is trust for you? And I asked this same question to you folks at home. Now remember what I've said in the past, there is an engineered template built into the very substructure of life, and a part of this template is your experience of just before you have a shift you may become confused, so as to have an opening left or an empty space in your model of the world, so life can now install a new piece of information in this spot. The space between, or the connection between other already installed pieces of information, so as to make different connections in your mind, in your belief system, so as to enlarge your model or worldview, so as to change your expression of yourself, so as to change your life. Now, one of the unconscious mind's functions or jobs is to protect you, and so confusion is one of the ways it does this. Now, as life brings in the new programming, your new model of the world, as you see me do with her through the reiterating the meaning of trust, then asking her how it feels to her, to then have her begin to create anchors or connections to her life, which is exactly what you do when incorporating this new information into your new model of the world, or your worldview, after you go through a major change in your life. Now when life does this to you, or for you, so as to incorporate the information better, so as to create the new change with less turmoil for yourself, so as to move and flow with the changes in your life, I ask you to engage with it, to be conscious of it. And by this I mean the following. As you saw with our client, she realised the biggest anchor for her to be able to trust herself more, was to give herself more stillness, more time, more space. And then I manoeuvred her to focus on giving herself more time, more space, and room to breathe. I ask you to do the same for yourself, meaning when you acknowledge your new informational input or new understanding of yourself, life, people, whatever your lesson is, then look where in your immediate life you are already doing it, or where you can implement the new information, meaning where you begin expressing it, thereby anchoring it in purposefully, and so being conscious of the evolutionary template that has been, of this evolutionary template that has been created by God for you. There's a lot of spelling mistakes in here, folks, grammar mistakes. Now, so I'm open to someone who's better at writing it than me, putting it together. Now, when I asked her, how do you do it now? Create stillness. She reverted back to her old understanding, her old model of the world, of which the evidence of this is her saying, well, I don't do a lot of it at the moment because... ... She was going to continue on with giving me reasons as to why she doesn't, thereby reinstalling or re-solidifying her old model of the world. This is why I stopped her, asking her, how do you do it now? Showing you my strategy here is to bring the new change showing you my strategy here is me attempting to bring the new change into her present life. Now, if you practice more mindfulness, meaning being present with your thoughts, watching them, you may notice the old pattern of thinking beginning to play out again, and can then consciously choose not to listen to it or engage with it, not to act it out, thereby living more consciously. Meditation is key for developing your ability to do this. I'll give a simple method or way of meditating coupled with a very clear description of it in a later show. But for now, know this. You are not your mind. You are not your thoughts. Based upon where you project your energy, getting over a flu at the moment. Based upon where you project your energy, your willpower, thoughts come from the internet of mind for you to implement into your life, to include into your life, so you can experience them through emotion. First, you have a thought, and the experience of the thought is the feedback of emotion. Motion means energy in motion. Energy being thought, which is electric, and this electricity can be observed in a lab, has been. And emotion being magnetic or electromagnetic energy, of which also can be measured by technical devices in a lab, and has been. And remember, when you are a fully healthy, functioning human being, you have a balance between these two aspects of yourself. I ask you to determine that part of the template or background engineering of this universe is balance. And when you're out of balance, you're not fully conscious. Now, back to our session. You'll see how I confuse her again, so as to further install her new way of operating, her new way of giving herself more time, more space. Now, life does this to you too. If you notice life placing a key into the door of your model of the world, life begins... If you don't notice life placing a key into the door of your model of the world, so as to open the door, to change, life begins knocking on the door. And if you don't hear your evolutionary opportunity for growth knocking on the door, life begins banging on the door. And if you still deny change, then life kicks down the door, meaning perhaps a calamity or an unsettling event may happen in your life, like a nervous breakdown or some massive personal shift. In a harsh way, a personal shift. And I'll say again here, if either happens, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not failing. You're only being given higher instruction, and so it benefits you to listen to it, engage with it, and utilize it through looking where in your life the change happens, or where in your life the small reactions of it begin to happen, and focus on that. Now, when we see our client still speaking about not giving herself more space, more time, and using present tense language, speaking in the present, signifying to me that it's still an issue for her at this time. This is my failing in not being able to completely install the changes yet. I'm still learning to be a better listener and to be more effective, and so please do not think of me as having all the answers, because I don't. And in you watching this show, you're also watching me become better in every way. You're watching me becoming more conscious. And so we go on this journey together. I will stumble and I will fall. I will make mistakes and I will embarrass myself, because I do value what you think about me. Because I want you to value this show. Because I want to change your life for the better, because this is me expressing, living my deepest core value, of which is to make our world a better place, and so to play as big a role as I can in the positive evolutionary process of our species. This show is my first public step in doing so. I have other plans, but first I need all of you folks believing in me. So when you go on your holiday, do you think you're going to experience what you feel you will experience when you give yourself more time and more space? Is that what the holiday's about?
Oh, it's not a holiday, it's work.
Oh.
So
It sounds like a Rati thing. It's a working holiday.
Yeah, we take people to Brazil. Yeah, so work and play.
Work and
together.
play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, since you're willing to continue working up until the point where you go, and to do it in such a way that is changed from other ways when you would do it, such as this way, it's going to be different in the sense that you're not putting as much financial pressure on yourself. Okay? That enables you to have a better, more fluid, more easily and relaxing journey from now up until the point where you go. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you say that you're choosing to continue that practice, that allowance, giving yourself the space to breathe and relax when you come back from your holiday as well. Are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you see your life changing in doing that?
Well, I feel more vibrant, more vitality in my physical vessel.
Nice.
And I'll be sleeping better as well, because I won't have so much on my mind. That means I feel more motivated to adopt a morning practice, because right now I just try and get as much sleep as I can. Then, so that kind of stuff. And
okay.
Yeah, feeling healthier.
To make the journey between now and how you know you would feel in the future when you can afford yourself the ability, the opportunity to give yourself more time and presence with yourself, okay? If you focus in the here and now on how it is you would feel when you're doing that in the future, you're setting up a magnetic, energetic match emotionally between how it is you're feeling now and how it is you know you're going to feel in the future when you're doing it. And you're grabbing that in the future and you're bringing it into the present moment. And by default, you're making the journey from here to there a lot more fluid, a lot more easier. Do you get what I'm saying? So I suggested to you, the more you focus on now, how you're going to feel when you've got all the time in the world and you're giving yourself all the presence and the peace that you require in being more, as you say, with people, more, what was the word?
More social.
More social. Okay, if you focus on that now, whatever it is to you that represents giving yourself more space and time, the more you focus on that now and then turn your attention towards the future, the energetic charge goes and the journey from here up until then becomes easier, which means you're grabbing in the future and you're bringing it into the present moment and you're using it as fuel to propel you to what it is you want. Do you get that? So to explain again, if you imagine what you will have, what your experience of life will be, what thoughts you'll be having, what emotions you'll be feeling in the future when you have what you want, if you imagine that, how life will be for you then, and then you bring it into the here and now in your present life, in the present moment, and use your imagination to feel that and to think those thoughts and to live that way. You're setting up a magnetic connection of informational flow between here and now and that thing in the future that you want. Thereby, you're moving yourself towards that future more easily. And if you notice in your present life things that are in alignment with the thing that you want in the future, the vibration that you're giving off in the here and now, or should I say, and the vibration you're giving off in the here and now, if you notice that and act upon it, or draw more of that into your life, focus on it in any way you choose, any way you can, you're further enhancing upon the process of moving you more fluidly to the future that you want. And I'll add here, when you successfully alter or change your sense of self now through taking out what no longer serves you, the here and now obviously changes, and perhaps your future does too. Okay, so try to access that confusion. Tell me how it's changed.
It's like I have an awareness there's confusion, but it's like more curiosity than a confusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So look into that confusion with curiosity, and as you're doing that, turn up the feeling of that confusion. as you turn that feeling of confusion up, the curious mind, being curious, looks into it and begins to receive information from it, the essence of curiosity, or the feedback of curiosity. What information comes to you as you look into it?
Yeah, it's like this, it's more like a detached confusion, but like there's no emotional charge with it. It's just like, oh, this is interesting, and I have a choice I have a choice. Like
Okay.
that. You know?
Excellent. Well, there you go. There's the new program right
Yeah.
there, which shows that in the future when a fella comes along,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have that space right there to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being involved in the confusion and allowing
Mm-hmm.
simply his attention to dictate how you're going to react,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have the pause of the curiosity right there. You're going to sit back and go, wait a minute, what am I going to do here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what have you got out of tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting to decide that when that pattern dropped in of that freezing pattern, yeah, that's been very enlightening. That's where that's come from.
Right. Now, the first thing that pops in, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
No conscious editing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you see relationships with men changing from this point on?
I don't feel like a sense of urgency around it. Actually, I feel very excited and comfortable about just getting to know myself a little bit better.
Again, no conscious editing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me what you think I may want to hear, or are you
No.
being truthful?
Yeah, truthful. Because usually I would want to think about the next one, the next boyfriend I'm going to get, or the next man I want to attract in my life, or whatever. But right now I'm like, well, I don't really feel like I
Excellent.
need that right now.
Excellent. And again, to reiterate,
Yeah.
the more you focus on yourself,
Yeah.
giving yourself the time and the space in whatever way you feel is best for you,
Yeah.
the more you change your vibration, and the more a better match for you comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of which means to me, by default, the more you do this, the less effect a man in the near future, when he just simply pays you attention, will have on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which means it will afford you the presence
Mm-hmm.
to be able to stop and feel where you're at with it,
Mm-hmm.
and make your conscious decision as to whether or not you wish to engage with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's power.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested,
Mm-hmm.
at some point in the future, you can call me up or through Rati, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in how this is going to play out when a fella comes along and shows interest in me.
Me too.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating how when we change our concept of self,
Mm-hmm.
because the vibration that we're giving off is based upon our understanding and our belief in ourselves, our understanding of ourselves, our immediate world around us begins to change. It has to reflect that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a direct interpretation of our understanding and how we feel about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because tonight we put a slight program in there, okay, that has altered your sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
that has altered, taken out a lot of that confusion. There's a little bit still there, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By default, this means the vibration you're putting off is going to be different, which means by default your life is going to change, because life is a reflection of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there, we live in a sea of energy. Indeed, everything's energy. We're constantly sending out to each other vibrational signals. Now, in a laboratory, these signals have been measured, meaning a person sits in a chair and the scientists, the experimenters, put onto his head or her head a skull cap made out of latex, sometimes made out of latex, and it's got all these electrodes all the way over it, all these wires coming off, and it's connected to a machine. This is called an electroencephalograph. It can read your brain waves by determining the amount of electrical output of your brain. Remember I said thoughts are electric? Now, when they ask the person who has the skull cap on to think of playing a game of tennis, no, to think of driving a car, a certain area of the brain lights up with electrical activity. Now when they ask the person to actually get out of the chair whilst still wearing it on and actually go and drive a car, the same area of the brain lights up with electrical activity. This means that the biological system, the brain, the unconscious mind, cannot distinguish a difference, or doesn't distinguish a difference, between reality and what we imagine. It's the same thing. Now, as I said, we live in an energy soup. We're constantly giving off, sending off vibrational energy, of which other people pick up on, and they're constantly sending off their vibrational energy, of which we pick up on. Now sometimes we get mixed up with what's ours and what's theirs. And sometimes, as you can see with this client, our client here, she has allowed men, their vibrational energy that they give off of interest, they're interested in her, she has allowed that to dictate to her how she should react. That's unhealthy, folks. Don't do that. Now with meditation, when you sit in the second stage of meditation, of which I'll explain to you in a later show, you experience a presence with yourself and you pause. There's a slight pause between what happens and not your reaction to it, but how you choose to act to it in relation to it. That's power. That's living self-consciously, determining your life based upon determining how you're choosing to react, or act, to life. You're in control. In fact, ultimately at a deeper level, you always have been. More on that later. And I'll add here, because your unconscious mind doesn't distinguish a difference between so-called reality and so-called imagination, your imagination, when you want to move towards that future goal, if you imagine in the here and now, in your present life, how you'll feel when you get that goal, when you're living that life, feelings are magnetic, okay? So when you know how it is you'll feel when you get that future, when you're in that future, living that future, and you feel that now, you're setting up that energetic magnetic match. Now, you can also, if you are developed enough, think the thoughts in the here and now that you would be thinking in the future when you're living that life or have that goal. Now, one may say, the uninformed may say, oh, but you're just using your imagination, man. You're living in your own head, pretending you've already got what it is you've got in the future, what it is you want in the future. I mean, you're living in a dream world, mate. Say okay. It is okay for you to be living in a dream world. It's a dream world of your own choosing, of your own creation. This is all a dream anyway, because the unconscious mind doesn't distinguish a difference between so-called reality and so-called imagination. What you're doing is you're using the ultimate tool that we all have, which is our imagination. All of this, everything that we make, everything technology, everything comes from imagination. So it makes sense to use that, doesn't it?